This is a Dragon Blazer production. Coming down the aisle, the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Welcome back to another edition of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
Now today we're going to finish our Wrestlemania 3 podcast. This is part 2 of Wrestlemania 3. The last episode we had a special guest, the Ohio Nerd. He joined us, and he will join us again later in the program. He's not going to be here until we watch the Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan main event for the WWF Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, and a quick note I want to bring up is that, unfortunately, if you watched the little sneak preview that we recorded, or that the Ohio Nerd recorded on his Instagram, unfortunately, that conversation has been edited out. We lost that audio. So due to time scheduling and computer issues, we did have to re-record this show, but we still have him later on in this program. So just look at that as a deleted scene.
Yeah, so if you go to the Ohio Nerd Instagram, you will be able to see a little bit of a sneak peek of something that didn't air on our show, but it's still a little fun thing. It catches us talking without the mics on.
Yeah. And
we get to have a little bit of a wrestling conversation. We really enjoyed him on the last show. He got to talk about some old retro wrestlers. He talked about LJN a lot. Talked about meeting Sergeant Slaughter, Jimmy Hart. So we had a really good conversation on the last show. So we definitely loved having him on the show. Hopefully we'll be able to do it again some other time.
Hopefully.
So in this episode, we also talk about his size.
Yeah.
So the Ohio Nerd is our cousin. His name is Warren, and he is 6'8". So amongst most normal-sized people, he is considered a giant.
He is.
In our eyes.
I don't look up to very many people. I look up to...
How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot. 6'1".
I think you got to be 6'1", because I'm 6 foot. And
yeah,
you're bigger than me.
6'1".
So you got to be about 6'1". Okay. So we'll have a discussion about that with Warren later on in the show. So don't forget, you can follow along with us, watch these matches, these great matches with us anytime you want. We use WWE Network. You can use whatever form you like to use. You can also join the conversation on the Rage and Blaze Show Facebook page. You can also find us on Instagram, the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm at Ricky Rayberg on Twitter, and I post about the show. And you have a Twitter account too, do you not?
Yes, at Dragon Blazer Pro. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to give him credit right now. Rage has been killing it on Instagram, giving you every day something that this day in wrestling pictures. I'm very proud of him. He's doing a really good job on the social media.
Yeah, so we're trying to get a big social media presence. We hope you come and enjoy the show. But we also hope you follow us on social media and share the love of wrestling that we have. So one of the things I thought about doing was every day, it's almost a guarantee, every day something happened in the history of wrestling. So whether that day in a certain year fell on a Monday Night Raw, Monday Nitro, could have been a pay-per-view, could have been a WrestleMania. But every day along the way, wrestling is 365 days a year. I mean, they might only air shows Mondays, Thursdays, Sundays, pay-per-views, and any of the days you can watch wrestling, but they're traveling all the time usually. I mean, in today's climate, maybe not.
I just wanted to interject real quick.
Sure.
Anybody who has questions for the show, we also have an email address. That is an email address that both Rage and Blaze have access to. So if you want to ask any kind of questions, and we can answer them on the show, and that is rageandblaze@gmail.com.
Okay. So
Love to hear your feedback.
Anyhow, I decided to do this whole history in wrestling, and it was kind of interesting because I posted something the other day about the day Goldberg won his World Heavyweight Championship in WCW. He was in the process of his streak, and I would have to go back and fact check this, but on this Monday Nitro, Hollywood Hogan promised him a World Heavyweight Championship title shot on Monday Nitro. They did it on Nitro. They were trying to beat WWF in the ratings war, and this is the part that I'd have to fact check. I don't remember how many weeks WWF was beating Nitro in the ratings, but they were getting pummeled for a while. So they decided to take a gamble, probably lost millions of dollars in pay-per-view revenue by doing this, but they decided to, on that Monday Nitro, Bill Goldberg was a United States champion, and they said, you defend that title against Scott Hall, you win that match, you get a world title shot at the end of the night on Nitro. So, of course, Goldberg was in the middle of his streak, and this is another moment I'd have to fact check, and this number varies because there's some controversy on how many actual wins he had in his streak, because there was house shows added to it that wasn't televised. People thought WCW was inflating the number just to make him look more dominant, but when I went to go look it up, and I can fact check this again just to double check, but Scott Hall would have been victim number 107 on his, I think it was 172, 73 win streak that he ended up having before he lost to Kevin Nash. So then he goes on later that night, fights Hollywood Hogan, and he wins the world title. So I've had some, not really, I don't want to call it blowback, but I mean, we're just, as fans, we're debating. I posted this on this day in history, and I have people writing me because they disbelieve that Goldberg only won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship once in his career. Now, he won it again in WWE, but you can go fact check this yourself. He was only a one-time champion, and he was so dominant. And he was a champion during the streak, and his streak ended when he lost the title to Kevin Nash. And there's people on Facebook, on the comment sections, on some of our wrestling pages that I have posted this on, that is in disbelief. Because they're telling me, oh, he had multiple runs as champion. No, he didn't. He held the United States Championship, I believe, multiple times. I think twice. World Heavyweight Championship. And I believe he was a tag team champion at one time. But he was only a WCW World Heavyweight Champion once in his career. In the WCW before they folded. And I just couldn't believe that stat. And I obviously do the fact checking before I post these pictures, because I remember things, but then I want the facts.
But you're not a robot.
Yeah, I'm not a robot. But there's people on Facebook that don't believe me. They didn't call me a liar, but they just called me out trying to say it was untrue.
Sounds like they were calling you a liar, Blaze.
They didn't use the term liar, but to be honest, it is a shocking to know that Goldberg was their biggest, probably homegrown star. Oh, come on. Homegrown star. And when I say homegrown star, guys that made it in WCW So you'd have Sting is probably
Sting,
Flair,
Ric Flair,
Goldberg, right?
yeah.
You got to put Goldberg over DDP.
Goldberg probably is third on that list.
I mean,
but you just I could have
and
swore
Flair
I heard
and Sting
you say
could definitely be argued
over
who's the top of that list.
Yeah,
but there's
personally,
the list.
I like
Goldberg's
Sting
three.
better, but...
Goldberg is 3.
Yeah.
He's got to be for homegrown talent. And then after that, you'd have to go with Booker T, DDP maybe. DDP's career didn't last nearly as long, definitely after WCW folded, but he was a big deal when he was in, Nitro was around and Thunder was around. Right. He was a big deal.
He was.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next match.
First match.
No.
This is our first match that we're about to watch.
Okay, but this is part 2 of our podcast.
Well, okay.
So the next match, the last match we had just watched, was Dangerous Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation versus the British Bulldogs and Tito Santana. So now the next match we are going to get is Butch Reed with Slick versus Coco Beware. Okay, so before this match starts, we get a Bobby the Brain Heenan promo with Andre the Giant. Andre doesn't say anything, but Bobby talks for him, and he reminds the viewers, and it's almost just hard to believe, he reminds the viewers that this is a 15-year undefeated streak of Andre the Giant. So, Goldberg, eat your heart out. Because Andre the Giant, 15 years undefeated. So they're really building this match up like nobody can beat Andre the Giant. He is the Giant. And they definitely build it up for 15 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's unheard of these days.
Okay, so the next match we get, it was kind of a short match. We get the Natural Butch Reed versus Coco Beware with his bird Frankie by his side. So he comes out flapping his arms. He does his thing. I love Coco Beware. He's fun. But this match didn't last very long. It was a decent match. It just wasn't a special match.
It was fine, I guess. The best part of this match is you get to see Frankie.
Yeah, the bird's pretty. I like it.
It's a pretty parrot.
I like the pretty bird. So anyhow, this match, there's not really much to talk about. It was kind of back and forth, but in the end, the Natural Butch Reed, he gets the win, kind of on a roll-up situation that happened. And the way Coco reacted after the win, because Butch Reed gets the 1, 2, 3, wins the match, kind of acted like his trunks were pulled, but it happened so fast I didn't really notice it.
I didn't see it.
But, so it was kind of odd, because if the trunks wasn't pulled, Coco was kind of acting like a sore loser after this match. He grabs Butch Reed's shoulder, punches him, and they start brawling. Slick hits Coco Beware over the head with a cane. Tito Santana, he comes out to save Coco Beware, and everybody cheers for Coco.
Hey,
so what do you think?
Hey, you know what? He is a sore loser. You are absolutely right. He is a sore loser. Coco started punching the Natural, and Slick just came in to defend his guy. I mean, he was entirely justified. Coco attacked him after the match, after he won fair and square.
You know, if I was Slick, I don't know if I'd be going in there messing with Coco Beware. I think Slick looked maybe 100 pounds if he was soaking wet.
Coco didn't do shit. Instead, Tito Santana puts his nose where it doesn't belong and comes out and attacks Slick for just defending his man.
Well, it looks like Coco had a little bit of sour grapes, but it sounds like he feels like his tights were pulled.
It sounds like you can't even defend his actions this time.
Well, it was just it was out of character for the face of the match to act like that at the end of the match. It was just a little surprising. But it was an okay match. There was a little back
Cheap
and
shots.
forth. There wasn't a lot of it. It was maybe a little over 3 minutes. So there's not really much to talk about. So moving on to the match I think we've all been waiting for. Okay, so now we're moving on to a match that I know we both have been looking forward to. It's deemed in wrestling history as one of the greatest matches of all time. So we're going to watch we're about to watch this and we're going to make the decision here. So before we get the match, we get interviews from the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah.
Good interview. Really good interview.
It was a very good promo. Talks about being the master of the ring. I thought that was kind of neat. And then we get a promo from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which was a decent promo. I don't remember much about hearing Ricky the Dragon actually talk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember him being a great wrestler, but as a talker, I don't remember hearing him as much. So it was kind of nice to hear him talk. He did a decent job. So then the match comes out. They come out. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat comes out with George the Animal Steele. And then Macho Man, of course, comes out with Miss Elizabeth. So they come out to the ring on the little wrestling carts, the little go-karts that I absolutely love. They come out. Match starts out. And, okay, so as a wrestling fan, we have watched many of these matches already in a couple of our podcasts, and we talk about enjoying matches, some more than others, but for the most part, we enjoy wrestling. But as a wrestling fan, when you watch certain matches, you can tell they're special. There's something special about this match. This match is for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. And these two men leave it all in the ring. This was a wrestling clinic. This reminds me of wrestling matches I've watched with Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels. I mean, the list goes on and on. Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio. I mean, this match just reminds me of great wrestling talent and ability. It was a back and forth match, and I'll tell you what, Earl Hebner probably had to have shoulder surgery after this match. Because
a lot of pin attempts.
Because it was pin attempt after pin attempt, and I know he only had to count to 2 every time up until the very end. But dear Lord, his hand had to be hurt, and I bet his shoulder. Earl Hebner, at one point while we were watching the match, I looked over at you, Blaze, and I said, Earl Hebner looks like he has done more work in this match than the two wrestlers.
Well, those wrestlers just had to lay on top of each other, and he had to do the 2 count.
I mean, these guys were all over the ring. Earl Hebner had to keep the order in this match. It was all over the place. They were in and out of the ring. You had both men from the top rope, high flying. You had great wrestling ability, suplexes, double axe handle. Of course, you get Macho Man. He does the flying elbow. I mean,
you also had
we had everything.
Ricky jumping over Earl Hebner.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, yeah. Tell us about that, Blaze. He jumped over.
Oh yeah,
Earl Hebner.
He gets on the top rope. Earl Hebner just happened to be there. He jumps over him and hits Macho Man. I don't remember if it was an axe handle or a clothesline, but he clears the jump. He gets over that ref.
I mean, anything these men could do to put on a show for this audience, they did it. And this match was excellent. And up until this moment on our podcast, and obviously we've watched wrestling throughout the history, so we've seen other matches throughout the history, but just strictly leaving it with the podcast and where we have started and where we're at now at WrestleMania 3. This is our 3rd pay-per-view. This is by far And I'm talking a mile. By far, the greatest match we have watched up until this point.
Yes, definitely the best match we've watched up to this point. I can see why people say this is the greatest match of all time. It was a really, really well done match. A lot of back and forth, a lot of excitement. Macho Man trying to grab the ring bell and bring it into the ring.
And that doesn't work for him.
No, it doesn't, but still, it was still a fun moment. He pushes the ring bell guy down. George the Animal Steel tries to take it from him. He throws him off, kicks him, and then he gets on the top rope, and then George pushes him off. And, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a really great match. Can I call it the greatest of all time? I think through time, we've seen a lot of really good matches, and I don't know if I can agree with that claim now. But up to this point, I can say, at least at WrestleManias, this is the best match we've seen.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there because, unfortunately, we live in the future.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we're not watching this as of when it aired. Because if we were there on that day in 1987, I would very easily be able to tell you this was the greatest match I have ever seen in my life.
And if I wasn't a fan of Macho Man or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat already, this would have sold it.
Oh, yeah. I guarantee you they added so many more fans that day because they put on a clinic. This was a wrestling clinic.
Although I feel like you should already be a Macho Man, if nothing more than his promo work.
Oh, yeah. Macho Man, huge presence. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, he was great in-ring performer. But, yeah, on this day in 1987, I could understand an older generation crowd probably not letting that out of their head and still saying this is the greatest match I ever seen. Even if they watched future wrestling matches, I could understand when you see this match, your first knee-jerk reaction is, this is probably the greatest match I've ever seen. And this is kind of interesting because my opinion of the greatest match I've ever seen, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast already before, is Shawn Michaels, Bret the Hitman Hart, for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship, WrestleMania 12, 60-minute Iron Man match. It is the greatest match I've ever seen in my life, and it will be interesting after sitting and watching all of these if the adult version of me sticks.
Agrees. Yeah.
Because the childhood version of me remembers that being one of the greatest matches I had ever seen up until that point, and to my recollection, I've never let any match come above it.
It will be interesting to see it again. I am kind of jealous of older wrestling fans because
older than us,
right? Well,
because we grew up in a prime.
Let me
time to be a wrestling fan.
Let me make this more specific.
But we're a little bit too young to remember some of these.
I am
events.
jealous that I wasn't watching this match when it happened in 1987. Now, I might have been too young in 1987.
So, 1987, you'd have been, in March, you'd have been, what, 4?
5.
No, you'd been 4, turning 5. Yeah. So, you'd have been probably about 4.5 when this match
So, I probably wouldn't have been able to, appreciate this if I did get to watch this. I never watched this. I don't believe I did. But I probably, I didn't. I'm jealous that I didn't get to see this match live when it happened in 1987 because I can honestly say that this probably would be up there as my favorite match of all time, and I don't know if I got to watch it when it happened, I probably would have higher opinions on it, where now I can recognize it being, for what it was, a great match. But with all my wrestling knowledge being in the future me, I don't think I can claim this to be the greatest match of all time. I've seen much more.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, because I think a lot of times being at a certain age and a youthfulness helps with what you believe to be the greatest. I think that's why you have a lot of people who don't like today's music because they're stuck in the time in which they grew up. Same with movies. We watched movies as a kid that we absolutely loved, and we remember them to be these great movies. Some of them still are. Some of them still hold up today.
Oh, I'm finding that out a lot on my other podcast.
Some of them don't quite hold up. So it's the same with wrestling, and the way wrestling was and the way wrestling is now. They're really two different worlds, and it's hard to compare. But right here in this match is more remnant to the wrestling I love than some of the, I guess, slower, kind of somewhat boring matches we've seen in some of these 3 WrestleManias.
Can we talk about... Okay, so I was a little disappointed...
This is our show. We can talk about whatever we want.
Thank you for pointing that out. So, I was a little disappointed we didn't get like a proper finisher by Ricky the Dragon to win this match.
But doesn't that make the ending so much more surprising and make the match so much greater? Because we didn't get the finisher.
Can I finish?
So we didn't.
Will you let me finish?
Did we not?
Will you let me finish?
Can I point that out though?
Okay, No, I'm just kidding. So, I was just about to say I'm a little sad that I didn't get to see the finisher of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. However, the way it ended was really cool. I liked that body slam counter into a pin.
And you didn't expect that to be the end.
I'm saying it was a great finish. I'm saying it's a great finish. Other than I would have liked to see his finisher, but I'm not complaining because it was a really cool counter into a pin that won the match.
So, the end of the match, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat gets the 1, 2, 3 and becomes the new WWF Intercontinental Champion! Oh, man, it was great.
It was a great match. I agree.
Okay, moving on. Okay, so next we get promos from Jake the Snake Roberts with Alice Cooper. Yeah!
Alice Cooper. Now, I like me some Alice Cooper.
Oh, we've seen him in concert.
We saw him in concert.
He beheaded Britney Spears.
It was great.
It was amazing. So, we got Alice Cooper with Jake the Snake Roberts, which, come on, that's a perfect pairing, isn't it? And, of course, you have Damien in the sack.
Yes, we do have Damien in the sack.
So, anyhow, then you get a Honky Tonk Man promo with Jimmy Hart. And then both men come out to the ring in the little wrestling go-karts, which I love. So, this match really should have went to Jake the Snake Roberts. It was a good match. Not as much back and forth. It was more Jake the Snake handling business. One time he even had Honky Tonk Man wrapped up in the ropes, and he's just punching him. Honky Tonk Man kind of flips over, comes back, keeps bouncing back because his arms are locked in the ropes, and he's punching him. So then you get the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, sticking his nose where it doesn't belong, grabbing onto Jake the Snake Roberts' feet and boots or whatever, and holding on to him, which gives the Honky Tonk Man a chance to roll Jake the Snake over. And not, if that wasn't enough, having his manager help him, then he grabs onto the ropes to leverage the pin to make sure Jake the Snake can't kick out. This is bullcrap.
Jimmy Hart, he has a job to do, Rage. His job is for that client in the ring. And he was just doing what was best for his client.
Was Jimmy Hart a part of the match, Blaze?
he was looking at the best interest.
I'm
of
looking
his
for
client.
a yes or no answer.
His client.
Yes or no answer. Was he a
He
part
was
of the
a
match?
part of the match. They announced him.
No.
It's his manager. He was a part of the match.
This was a one-on-one match against Jake the Snake Roberts and the Honky Tonk Man.
Doing what was best for his client.
Not a triple threat match, which didn't exist
many
yet.
clients. This is his 1,003rd client right here.
This wasn't a handicap match. Alice Cooper didn't get involved.
Well, Alice Cooper is a treasure for all of us, so, I mean, why would he get involved?
So anyhow, the match ends. Honky Tonk hightails it out of there with the win, but not before Jake the Snake Roberts gets his hands on that scrawny Jimmy Hart.
He is not a wrestler, Rage. That is unacceptable.
And then Alice Cooper gets the sack and brings out Damien.
Jimmy Hart has a huge fear of snakes, Rage. That was just cruel. They just punished him. It was unacceptable.
So they throw Damien on top of Jimmy Hart, and a crowd goes wild because everybody knows Jake the Snake Roberts got screwed.
I don't feel like he got screwed at all. He was just holding onto the rope because he was losing his balance. It's perfectly fine.
So then the Honky Tonk Man comes back to save his manager, and then Jake the Snake Roberts swings Alice Cooper's guitar up against the post of the turnbuckle. This happens outside of the ring, and Honky Tonk dodges it. You see the guitar explode, blow up, and they hightail it out of there.
Now, I did want to bring something up.
What's that?
First off, Wannabe Elvis. I loved the facial hair. Good times, good times.
You do like the chops, don't you?
I do.
Uh-huh.
And then I also want to bring up Jake the Snake Roberts. Tights are very confusing.
With the spider webs?
Spider webs with the snake. I'm like, okay, where did the spider web come from? Did that snake just learn some shit? It's like, I was just talking to...
we got some hybrid snakes out there.
I was just talking to Charlotte over there, and she taught me some things, you know? Charlotte's Web. Read a book, Rage. Read a damn
Dear
book.
Lord, why read a book when they make them all into movies?
There's a movie, too!
So anyhow, I did notice that in the trunks. It wasn't distracting. I mean, they
were cool looking trunks. Don't get me wrong. It's just why? where does the spider web come about in his gimmick? He's a snake guy. Last time I checked, snakes don't make webs.
Fair enough. I'll give you that one. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so the next match we have, they don't really give us any promos. They don't give us any backstory. But what we do get is the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov comes out with Slick. Now, the Nikolai Volkov, every time he comes out, he sings the Russian national anthem. So, but this time he starts to sing it, and who do we get? Donning the red, white, and blue.
Ho!
With his 2x4, he comes out, he says, "Not in my America, basically..."
This is very foreigners bad.
Yeah.
How dare you sing...
You don't sing your national anthem in my America.
America.
So, he comes out and he's all PO'd that they're trying to sing the Russian national anthem. He leads them into a chant of USA, USA.
That's a lot of pandering, Rage.
Hey, USA. We just had 4th of July not too long ago, so I mean it's befitting.
Uh-huh.
So anyhow, then they announce the opponents, which is the Killer Bees, which consist of B. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzel.
Shitty-ass Steeler fans.
Is that what you think?
Killer Bees.
The Killer Bees, and maybe it is. So before the match started, you kind of pointed out the outfits, didn't you?
Yeah, they had the bee-style outfits. I'm sure my friend Luke would really enjoy that.
Okay.
He's a beekeeper.
He's a beekeeper.
Yeah,
okay.
he actually raises and has bees and stuff.
Okay, you know what I first thought of when I saw their outfits?
Is those shitty uniforms that the Steelers wear? Me too.
Well, I never think of the Steelers, so I didn't think of that. But my first thought was the little action figure we had when we were kids, and I believe his name was Buzz Off. He was a part of the He-Man line action figures. First thing I thought of was, I mean, this is a He-Man character coming out here and wrestling a match. First thing that came to my mind.
Two of them.
Yeah, we only had one. But I believe, and
I'm saying there's two of those characters coming out because they're wearing the same outfit.
But the funny thing is I remember using that not quite as a He-Man action figure, but we used to have the big blue wrestling ring that you could buy and put your wrestlers in, and he was just another wrestler when I was playing with him. I used him as if he was, another character coming down the aisle. So that was how I used that, and probably
in fairness,
most of my
I think
action
that's
figures.
most of our toys.
Most of our action figures, even if they weren't.
If we had a Barbie, she was a valet.
Oh yeah, she was valet. She was coming out.
She was a valet Barbie.
I mean, we'd buy a Catwoman and then pretend she was Sable. Whip and all. So anyhow, moving on to the match. This was a pretty solid tag team match. A lot of tag team action in this match. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't special, but it wasn't a bad match. It was a good match.
And then Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who had no business being there in the first place, comes in and attacks Nikolai Volkov. Was it Volkov?
No, I think it was the Iron Sheik in the ring.
Oh, well.
It was the Iron Sheik. He had like a Cobra Clutch type move on one of the Killer Bees. I apologize. I don't know them by name.
I don't know them very well.
So
apparently I don't know the Iron Sheik.
He had like a Cobra Clutch, and before this, while this was going on in the ring, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was chasing down Slick, then followed by chasing down Nikolai Volkov. Volkov is actually the one who jumped in the ring and brought Hacksaw into the ring by crossing into the ring to get away from Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And you could tell there was a sparkle in Hacksaw Jim Duggan's eyes.
Well, while I'm here.
Where he could just tell the moment was ripe to take that 2x4 and hit the Iron Sheik in the back.
It was just
referee
ridiculous.
had no choice but to call a disqualification and award the match to Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik.
He had no business being there at all.
Well,